Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through the latest injury news for the Falcons going into Week 2 against the Packers. And then we're going to wrap up the show by talking about potentially trading for Tee Higgins with all the trade rumors surrounding the Bengals wide receiver. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, make sure you hit the sub button down below because the Atlanta Falcons have an opportunity to do something they have not done in a long time. They have not done under Arthur Smith, and that is start off 2-0. So let's not take any chances. Sub for dubs, baby. We are closing in on 14,000 subscribers. Hit the big red button down below. Now let's get into our injury news here, starting with cornerback Jeff Okudah, who returned to practice this week and is now trending towards playing against the Packers. And this would be, in my opinion, a big-time return. One, he's a highly skilled player, right? He went third overall in the draft, not as a mistake, but unfortunately, injuries followed him during his time in Detroit, and he was never able to really get into the swing of things and get into a solid rhythm and flow. And last year, when he was mostly healthy, he played pretty good football. But if the Falcons can get Jeff Okudah back, that's going to do wonders for this team. Because right now, the Green Bay Packers are feeling good about themselves. They're coming off a Week 1 win. They're all thinking Jordan Love is the guy. And I would love to be the rain cloud for this party up in Cheeseland with A.J. Terrell and Jeff Okudah putting the clamps on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers receiving room. I also think this is an opportunity for Okudah to have a very big season down in ATL. Former third overall pick, and he's a free agent after this season. He needs to perform just for his own sake, right? So he can stick around in this league. But for Atlanta, imagine if Jeff Okudah has a breakout season, the Falcons bring him back, and he goes on to form one of the best cornerback tandems in the league with A.J. Terrell. And years down the line, you're playing bar trivia somewhere, and it's like, where did future Hall of Fame All-Pro cornerback Jeff Okudah start his career off? And they're like, he was somewhere before all those years in Atlanta where he won multiple Super Bowls. Yeah, he was actually in Detroit for a little while. I know that's a bit far-fetched, but I do believe in Jeff Okudah, but we got to see him on the field first. So hopefully a return happens in Week 2, and that kickstarts an awesome 2023 season. But what do you guys think? Will Jeff Okudah play against the Packers? Just give me your best prediction down below in the comment section. Type P for play, type W for will not play. Now, next up, Cordarrelle Patterson. He should play. He has been a full participant at practice. Remember, a thigh injury kept him out of much of training camp and preseason and into Week 1 of the season. But it looks like Patterson's going to get the green light. So we're going to see that triple-headed monster, that three-headed monster of Bijan, Algier, and Patterson the Joker. And sign me up because I am excited for this. Now, as for Troy Andersen, the linebacker who is in concussion protocol, I'm not too optimistic about Andersen. He's still in concussion protocol, and we know how tough that can be to clear on short notice, so I would not hold your breath on the second-year linebacker playing. And in my eyes, this is actually a big loss because right now the Packers know they don't have an elite wide receiver room. But what they do have is some pretty good running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And what they love to do with these running backs is they love to get them out into space, throw them the football in the flat, and let them go one-on-one. And when you look at Atlanta's linebackers, who's going to be guarding these running backs? It's going to be a lot of Troy Andersen or Caden Ellis, or at least it was going to be a lot of Troy Andersen. And Troy Andersen is an awesome open space, open field tackler. I don't know if I can say the same for Nate Landman, right? There's not a whole lot of tape out on the former Colorado Buffalo, so Nate Landman would be, in my eyes, the next man up. And if he is faced with guarding and tackling Aaron Jones in open space, good luck, dude, because he torched the Bears last week. He had 2 grabs for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns altogether. So this is a very pivotal matchup that the Falcons need to be healthy for, and if they're not, you better believe the Packers are going to do everything they can to take advantage of that. Now, speaking of the Packers and this matchup, we're going to be having a live watch party here on the channel. So make sure you tune in. If you have never tuned in for a Falcons watch party before, I don't blame you. We just got the green light to start doing them this season. But we had a blast in the preseason, producer Rolly and myself. So come hang out with us this Sunday for the Falcons-Packers watch party. Now, before we get to the rest of today's show, we do have a fun, quick word from our sponsor, which is BetUS. If you want to put some cheddar down on this matchup, go to chatsports.com/betfalcons. Promo code Falcons125. Both teams 1-0. I'm feeling Atlanta, baby. I know there's a little bit of bias here because obviously I just want the Falcons to win. But give me Atlanta -1.5. If you want to ride with me, go to chatsports.com/betfalcons. Promo code Falcons125 for that huge deposit bonus. Now, to wrap up the show, let's discuss an NFL trade rumor that's been making its way across all 31 other fan bases, and that is trade for Tee Higgins. He is not a part of Cincinnati's future plans. The two sides were miles apart on a new contract, on a contract extension for what has been one of the best up-and-coming receivers in our game. Now, he was recently included in a Bleacher Report article regarding players on the trade block, and here's what Christopher Knox wrote. After making Joe Burrow the highest paid player in NFL history, and with Chase extension eligible in 2024, Cincinnati may not be able to afford to keep Higgins. According to Diana Rossini and Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic, the two parties won't discuss an extension during the season. I think Tee Higgins would be close to perfect in Atlanta. If the Falcons want to redo their offensive scheme and whatnot a little bit and lean a little bit more into the pass, well, Tee Higgins would be a huge upgrade over Matt Collins. No offense, Matt Collins. But Drake London, Tee Higgins, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, sign me up, right? Who would not be in love with that room, whether it is Desmond Ridder slinging the rock for the next 5 years or someone else, who knows? But whoever it is, they would be stepping into a phenomenal situation with uber amount of talent surrounding them. Because you look at Atlanta's pass catchers in week 1, there wasn't a whole lot of action here, right? And this is not on Pitts, Hollins, or London, right? Drake London is not a bad player because he didn't get a reception. No, Drake London had a tough matchup in week 1, but more importantly, Drake London's in an offense that only threw the ball 19 times in week 1, so if the plan for Atlanta is to throw the ball 19, 20 times, then sure, it's probably not the most wise decision to invest a lot of assets to get Tee Higgins and then to give Tee Higgins a ginormous contract if he's only going to be in a wide receiver room where they throw the ball 20 times. But if they want to open up the passing game a little bit more, Tee Higgins is a slam dunk, no doubter, as a player to pursue. Now, be honest with me. Are you concerned about the passing game? Because I credit Arthur Smith for grinding out 7 wins last year with subpar quarterback play, and he is leaning into his team's strengths. No question about it. He knows Desmond Ridder is not some proven, established veteran quarterback, so he's not going to ask the same of him as he would for someone like Matt Ryan towards the end of his career. But at the end of the day, I don't know how many NFL teams are going to win a lot of ball games by playing 1940s football. So right now it works for Atlanta, but long term, I have my concerns when teams start stacking the box. So you get Tee Higgins, that's going to help the passing game out for sure. So let me know down below in the comment section. Now, as for what it would cost to kind of get Tee Higgins out of Cincinnati and to Atlanta, I think the Bengals would want a first-round pick. Now, I also don't think the Bengals are really in the market for trading him mid-season because they want to capitalize on Tee Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase all being on their first contract, which they still are right now, believe it or not. So if that's the case, you would think the smarter guys in Cincinnati would prevail and hold on to Higgins. But if they decide, you know what, we can get good play out of Tyler Boyd and some other players we've drafted, and let's get something for Higgins now before he inevitably walks in free agency where we can no longer afford him, well, the guy that's gone over 1,000 yards 2 straight seasons and has 13 total touchdowns to show for, and in his career, 19 touchdowns, he's going to be worth a pretty penny. And I'm just going to put this out here, but I'm not quite sure if it would be enough. How about the Falcons get Tee Higgins for a second-round pick? My suspicion is Cincinnati would want more than just a second-round pick. I think he's worth a first-round pick, but maybe you toss a second and you see what you get back. Maybe you're probably going to know, but I think it's at least a good starting point for Terry Fontenot. But are you accepting this trade? If you were the Falcons and Cincinnati called and said, hey, Tee Higgins for a second, let me know. Would you do this trade? Type A for accept, D for decline. This is very much predicated on what scheme and what kind of offense Atlanta wants to run. down the line, right? Because if you trade for Tee Higgins, you are extending him to a 3-4 year, maybe even 4-year contract, we'll say. So in those 4 years, do you plan on having a quarterback that throws the ball 19 times a game? The answer is yes. Tee Higgins is probably a bit of overkill for what you want to do on offense. But if you want to expand your passing attack, go get Tee Higgins. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to come hang out with us. We will sign off, and we will see everyone on Sunday for the watch party.